So we're here today to use Breakout for these inner four circles. So you are the grade level expert, but Breakout's going to help us get into this higher level DOK. It's also going to give us time that we can do some on-the-spot intervention because our students are working on Breakout and we can talking to other students at the same time. And then it is set up to have student independence so that they are doing their own work product. So we're going to hit all of Superintendent Hill's big four in that middle. For ILE this year, we have refocused our professional development around these 5 areas over here. So digital citizenship, digital media literacy, foundational digital tools, computational thinking, and design thinking. So this is where the buckets of our money come from so that we can pay you for coming to professional development. Also, if you're coming to our Wednesday trainings or any of our afternoon, they're going to fit into one of these 5 categories. Today, we are going to be concentrating on computational thinking, visualogical problem solving steps with BreakoutEDU. This other circle right here, this is our ISTE standards that you're going to hear a lot more about. We have an ISTE certification coming that you can apply to be part of that process. But these are our standards for educators with technology integration in our classroom. So today you are a learner as you learn this new program, and then we're going to work these pieces in. Also, my favorite part about BreakoutEDU is the collaboration piece. And so you'll be hearing about that. I'm going to turn it over to Patty and stop presenting. I'm assuming Patty's going to present. Take it away.
Indeed. Thank you so very much. That was a lovely introduction. I did share a link to my slides in the chat. So you can grab those and add them to your Google Classroom and have them available for folks. And I will also, I do not need to send you the recording because you have it. So there you go. There's that. But I will show you some places within BreakoutEDU where you can get further support in our help center and in our new tour of the website and things along those lines. So, welcome everyone. Thank you so very much. I loved those visuals, Jennifer. There's so much there that really go to the heart of what we do here at BreakoutEDU. So that was a perfect tee up. Thank you so much. We're going to talk today about what BreakoutEDU is. Just as a refresher, in case there are people who are new to it, and then go over the platform, basically showing you where all the things are as far as creating classes, importing students, and finding the games. What's the difference between Lock of the Day and the other digital games, and what's the intent, and such. So we're going to go over all of that today. Before we get started, though, I want to play this little video, and I would love for anyone, as you're watching the video, to jot an aha moment in the chat, just something that comes to your head that we're like, oh, that makes sense, or that's something I didn't know, or oh, I like that, or any other aha moment that occur to you as we're going. All right, so I'm going to press play. Here we go.
One of the best parts about being an educator is seeing aha moments that spark curiosity, that develop skills to prepare students for the future, and transform my classroom into a place where all learners succeed. BreakoutEDU levels up classrooms into immersive, learner-centered experiences, boosting engagement, problem-solving, and critical thinking skills. With immersive kit-based experiences and interactive, standards-aligned digital games, my classroom is a mysterious archaeological dig 1 minute and an exciting galaxy expedition the next. BreakoutEDU challenges my class's content knowledge, inspires student collaboration, and empowers them with the skills they need in and out of the classroom. Plus, students can create their own games, demonstrating their comprehension and creativity. And I love that BreakoutEDU seamlessly integrates into any lesson plan. Create more aha moments and unlock the love of learning with BreakoutEDU.
All right, so the first thing that I want to mention, my next slide actually goes really well with Jennifer's slide, right? And so the idea here is that these are some of the main reasons for using BreakoutEDU. It's a learner-centered experience. That independence that Jennifer talked about is perfect, whether you are running the puzzles as a whole group experience or in small groups or as individuals. Doesn't matter, because the students are doing the thinking, the students are doing the communicating, the students are doing the collaborating and things along those lines. You are the facilitator and you bring them to the experience. And when you first start this, you may have to do a little bit of the holding the hand and guiding them through the experience. But in the end run, the students will be doing all of the work. And that's really important, because the idea here is that they are, really diving into the critical thinking on their own and doing that problem solving on their own, which is a big piece of it. You do have some alignments to standards, and now they may not 100% align with the standards that you use in your state, but the indicator statements are recognizable and they're things that you can utilize to jump off of for your standards. The skill development, the opportunities to develop skills, the 4C skills and the social emotional learning skills are really high up on the scale. Lots of opportunity to develop those skills. So let me just jump to the next slide and show you what I mean. So the idea here is that as the students are working together on the puzzles, and I will say that the website is designed for student independent work. They can do work on their own, log in, do the puzzles, put in the solutions. But one of the things I'll point out is that the best opportunity for the communication and the collaboration is to have them working in small groups, right? So the idea is that they're still working independently, but in small groups, and having them talk and communicate about what they think the answers are with each other is a huge benefit. You're going to get to you'll hear what they're thinking as they communicate that to each other. You'll hear how their brains work, which is kind of fascinating sometimes. And then when it comes to things like being an active learner, having awareness of others, having awareness of self, all of those things come with these experiences, because they are, they sometimes have to learn to live with productive struggle, but then they also eventually have some, competencies that make them feel really good about themselves as well. And so all of that is a big piece. And when it comes to our subject specific standards, in most states, the subject specific standards are not only designed to deliver content, but they all have these habits of mind, or these learner centric standards of things like being able to analyze and interpret data, being able to ask good questions, being able to communicate ideas and such. And so you're going to be finding ways to meet these expectations just by doing a Breakout EDU puzzle, even if the puzzle isn't connected to what you're teaching that day from a content perspective. So we're gonna talk about that as well. All right, so let's jump into the platform. If you've not logged in yet, this is what the platform looks like. If you have logged in, then you've seen it. And your platform is broken down into 3 regions. This left-hand region is a navigation panel. It takes you to places like your classes, your games, your notifications, the shop where you can buy supplies if you're running kit-based games, and then the Help Center. The Help Center is fully searchable, and everything that we're covering today and more can be found in the Help Center and categorized. So you could go in and go to getting started, or how do I create student accounts or roster students, or what's the student experience or student badging. All of that is here in the Help Center. And then the other piece that is a baked in support, if you will, is this guy right here. His name is Witty. He's our mascot, and he takes you on an exploration of the platform. So if you hit explore, it'll open up automatically the first time you log in, but you can dismiss him. And when you dismiss him, he just goes over here to the side, and you can explore. You can see what he will show you: how to create an avatar, how to find a game, how to play a digital game, how to create a class and add students, and so on. So you've got that opportunity to revisit everything that we're going to talk about today as well, built in. And then lastly, in the Help Center, there is a page with some self-paced professional development 4 modules that you can do and then print out a certificate at the end as well. So lots of opportunities to revisit and, really dig in at your own pace. Okay, but the first thing that I want you to do when you log in, if you've not done it already, is go into my account. And then in my account, you're going to go to the About Me section. And in the About Me section, you're gonna identify the grade levels that you teach, as well as the subject areas you're most interested in. Now, I know for those of you who teach the younger grades, you work on all subject areas, but you can pick the ones that you're most interested in using Breakout for, and or you can change it on a daily basis, whatever works. Because this area here, this pink About Me area, drives what's called the For You section of your recommended games area. So basically what it does is, now that I've reset that, it's going out and looking for games that fit that criteria of grade bands and subject areas. So I can recommend some games for me that are elementary level and science and math. So that's the science icon, that's the math icon. This is elementary, this is elementary and middle school. So you could see that this is a really great way to personalize your experience, but also, really have a quicker experience in finding some of the games that you might be interested in. Now, the recommended games area also has a popular tab, and these are the games that are being played right now. So it's not popular over time, it's popular right now. So you can see we just had, was Dot Day today or was it Friday? I can't remember, but it's recently, and a lot of people have been playing the Dot Day games and the back to school games. And then the most recent tab is going to be the games that have been published most recently by our games design team. So you have access to all of those in this panel before you even start searching or doing any of that. Please let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, log in with Google. Yes, and so you've already been rostered and you're in your account. So all you have to do is go to platform.breakoutedu.com and hit login with Google, and you should be able to get in. All right, so let's talk about my classes and the students. So why would you want to roster your students? Really important. The students, like we said earlier, we want to work towards that independence piece. We want them to be, working on things that are assigned to them and working ahead if they, feel comfortable. However, you're utilizing Breakout EDU. This is what the student portal looks like. And in the student portal, the 3 or 4 most recently assigned games are going to show up in this to-do list. So if you tell them log into Breakout EDU and play the Keela and Sherlock game in your to-do list, it should show up right there. Another way that they can find games that you've assigned to them is to go into their My Classes and find your class, right? So let's say they are in your Duncan Den class, they would view that class and they would see the games that have been assigned to them here. So they have 2 different ways to find assignments. These are going to be the most recent assignments, and then any assigned game will be in their My Classes. This upper right-hand corner panel is a really important one for students. This is Lock of the Day. Lock of the Day is a single puzzle game that gets published every single school day. So every day there's a different puzzle. And the idea of Lock of the Day is not necessarily to connect to your content, although there will be times when a Lock of the Day does. But it's an experience in problem solving and critical thinking that happens every day. And then we're going to go through this in just a couple of minutes, but this is where the students would access Lock of the Day. If I scroll down, you'll see this Breakout Plus coming later this year. And by later this year, I actually mean within a week or 2. And this is a brand new digital game experience where it's more along the lines of like a point and click adventure. And you'll know what I mean by that versus what the other games look like in just a couple of minutes. But the idea here is that it's a little bit more of independent, traveling through an area and finding clues and collecting them and then deciding where to use them. So it's a different level of critical thinking. And we're really proud of these games. There's going to be a new, this school year, there will be a new Breakout EDU game published each month. And then because you're in a school account, you will actually have the library. As one rotates out, you'll still have it in a library, and I'll show you where you'll find that. And then down here is where the students would go to learn about game design and then create their own games. So let's jump back over here into the teacher panel and talk about my classes. So because you are I'm going to assume you are a Google Classroom district, based on some of the things that have already been said, you would just simply import your class from Google by clicking import class and then hitting import here in the Google area. What's going to happen is it will go out to Google Classroom, it will pull in all of your rosters, and then you can decide which one of your rosters. I only have one, but if you had like 4 or 5 classes, maybe you only have one, depends on what grade level you teach. You would update it to make sure that it's the most recent information. And then so you can see I created this class on February 22nd, but I just updated it to whatever data is in Google right now. And then I have it checked off and I would hit import. It's super easy to bring your classes in from Google. And then once you do that, you can manage your class. Each class has a panel of this nature: your class roster, the games that you've assigned, lock of the day, submitted games from students, and then the class library of student created games. And in the class roster, you can go and view the student details, see if they're playing lock of the day, see if what games they have recently played. So this information is the games that they have recently played. What achievements have they earned from you or other teachers? And then what classes are they in? This particular student is in a lot of classes because he's my demo student, but it might just be that they're only in the one class, yours. So it all depends on how you and the others in your school are utilizing it. When you assign games, you would go to the Assign Games tab and see the percentage of the students that game was assigned to who have completed it. You can also do Show Results and see those students and the number of locks that they've completed and how long it took them and on what date did they do it. So you can track their progress. And the same thing for Lock of the Day. You can also track their progress on Lock of the Day. So we're going to talk more about Lock of the Day in just a second. Let's come back over here to the teacher area and talk about Lock of the Day. So like I think Jen said, Lock of the Day is a really great warm-up. It's a great opportunity to get the kids thinking and talking to each other and sharing ideas. Now, as the teacher, you can see today's Lock of the Day up here in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. You click on that, and that takes you to today's Lock of the Day. Now, I'm not going to do it right now because I want you to see this puzzle, but you can scroll down and see the answer, and you can see the answer down here. I'll show you that in just a second. So you have access to the answer. You needn't worry about how am I going to help the students with this if I don't know what the answer is, because you do have access to the answer as the teacher. The students have access to Lock of the Day up here. And like I said, they can also go back in time into last week's Lock of the Day, the week before's Lock of the Day, and so on, and just do some of the past and previous Locks of the Day. So this one, for example, is one of my favorites recently for a math class, right? So this particular puzzle involves the 3 little pigs cooking their very special vegetable stew to share with friends. And you can see when I look at Solve Lock that it's a number lock. And you can see that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inputs, right? So I need 7 numbers. And notice there's some words on this screen, and but a lot of the Lock of the Day puzzles are just images, and you have to get all the data by interpreting the images. Now, in this particular case, This is a math problem, right? How many people are we expecting? I think about 27 plus the three of us. So right there, they need to know 27 plus three, or 30 people, right? We won't have enough unless we multiply the recipe. So this is the recipe for how many people? 10. So how many times do we have to multiply the quantities in the recipe to get the numbers, right? And so that's the way it works. So we have 4 cups of carrots. Um, and then the idea here then is, all right, so even if we just multiplied each of these numbers by 3 to get 30 people instead of 10, is that the right order? And so we could drop back a little bit and look at the story, and it says they're very special vegetable stew. So there doesn't seem to be any hint about the order. So we'll just start with that and see if it works. So 4 carrots, 4 cups of carrots times 3 would be 12 cups of carrots. And then I'm going to go down. 1 times 3 is 3 cups of onions. A third a cup of celery times 3 would be 1 cup of celery. 3 times 3 is 9 potatoes. Peppers, 2/3 times 3. So that's 6/3, or 2 cups of peppers. And then sweet potatoes times 3 is 6. So, but that didn't work. So now what do I have to go back and think about? Did we do our math right? Let's check. Let's put it down on paper. If we didn't do our math right, then let's look again. It says directions: add the vegetables to the broth in alphabetical order, stirring constantly. Oh, alphabetical order. Okay. So that means that carrots goes first, right? And then what's next? Celery is actually next. And then after celery, it's what? Peppers? No, onions. Then peppers. So peppers would be a 2, and then potatoes would be a 9, and then sweet potatoes would be a 6. And now we've got it right. So you can see that there's multiple levels of thinking that has to happen. It's not just, oh, I see numbers and I'm going to plug them in, but more along the lines of thinking about, what is it exactly that I need to do? And in this case, not only did you need to do your math, but you needed to put them in alphabetical order. And that was all of that information was there. And that's where the critical thinking comes in. It's like, have I analyzed all of the data that's in front of me, and such? So today's game is an interesting one, a totally different subject area, right? So this is Central America broke free from Spanish rule in 1821. We're independent for the first time in history: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. So first of all, I do want to point out that if you have the kids working on this independently or even in small groups, they could, if you wanted to, have this read out loud to them using immersive reader. So immersive reader will read that out loud to them.
In 1821, the countries of Central America broke free from Spanish.
And if you have students who need an accommodation, you can also do line focus, you can do picture dictionary, and you can do translation into any number of about 50 different languages by word or by document. And it will switch back and forth from the original to the translated language. So you do have immersive reader for any written clues that are not on the image. And then that it allows the students to take it just a little bit further. So you can see immersive readers here again because there is another clue here. So what kind of lock do we have here? This icon tells us it's a color lock. I could also find that out by going in here, and I can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inputs, right? So now I go here and I look at these different pieces of information, and I'm not going to take you through it all, but you can see that there's most likely some sort of way to put this in order based on the date of the ticket or the date or the travel. And then there's also this order here of the different countries, or you match the countries with the colors and solve the puzzle. like I said, as the teacher, you can see the answers. So here's the combination is purple, brown, green, orange, yellow. And players will see that the destination of each ticket is one of the capital cities in Central America. They will match each ticket to the correct country and use the colors of the country in year order for the combination. So those are the years that was in the textual clue. Then this information is in the visual clue. So again, pulling information from a couple of different sources and putting it all together, that's the critical thinking piece. And when you have them doing that together in small groups and they're explaining, well, put in purple. And it's not enough to say put in purple. They have to say to each other. You want to ask them, the expectation is put in purple because, right? So there's no guessing. They have to justify their answers, and they have to each other and explain to each other what they're thinking. That's where the critical thinking, communication, collaboration comes in. All right, any questions about lock of the day? Again, lock of the day is going to be a single puzzle every day that you have access to here, but you also have access to it up here. If I go to browse by subject, you can come in here and see lock of the day category. And the lock of the day category has all of the locks of the day going back to a year ago, February, right? And so let's say you happen to be going through them and you find one that involves, a math logic puzzle or, some other, puzzle that you think would work really great with your class today. You can also have them play this game instead of playing the one, or in addition to playing the one that's in the platform, because you can assign it. So you can assign locks of the day in any other digital game. When you hit assign, you would just hit check off the class. If you only want certain students in the class to get that game, then you can drop it down and pick the students. So again, depending on why you're assigning it, you might have a reason to assign individually versus to the whole class. And you also might have a reason to assign it into the future. So you might be, you might know that you're going to be out on the 10th. So you want the students to do this on the 10th with the sub, and you don't want them to see it until 8:26 a.m. And so you assign it into the future. And you can do that with Lock of the Day or any of the digital games. The other option that you can do is copy the game. So if you copy the game before you assign it, then you have the flexibility of editing it. So I might not remember what lock of the day August 11th means. So I might want to go in and everything else is fine except that title. So I just want to change this to math logic for October 11th, bell ringer. Right. And then that way I know exactly what it is and when I need it, so that I have it. Now, once we're in here in the My Games, so I'm over here in the My Games area, you can see that you have your library. That's games that you've either created from scratch or you've copied over. You've got bookmark games. So the games have that bookmark tab on them, and you could put them in here until you need them. And then when you need them, open it up and then copy it or assign it. But you can see that it's bookmarked here. And then you've also got this tab here, the school library. And this is going to allow you to take any game that you've copied or created in your My Games library and share it with others in the school, teachers. So you can say, hey, other second grade teachers, I created a math logic bell ringer and I put it in the school library. So you should be able to find it there. And I thought everybody would like to use that next Tuesday. Whatever the logic is there. All right. Any questions about that?
I have a question about the Google Classroom sync. So I saw how you edited the assignment. So that's when I log into BreakoutEDU, it shows there.
Yeah.
And then would I copy that link to put in Google Classroom? How does that sync piece work?
So the idea here is you ideally what you want to do in Google Classroom is have them put a message to have them log in. If you take the link, so let's say you have a game, let's say we'll do this, it takes time to play a game, and you grab the share game link. If you do that and you put that into Google Classroom, it will not track in your My Classes. It will not track progress. It won't, the system won't recognize it as assigned. So if you're interested in tracking progress, knowing who's done the game, how long they took, and all of that other great information that you can get by tracking in here, the best way to do that is to assign it, and then just in Google Classroom say, today go to, and the link that you would share with them in Google Classroom is student.breakoutedu.com. And then they would just go in and they would see that assignment in their assignments to do panel here or in their My Classes here. Does that answer your question, Jennifer? Awesome.
Yeah, yes. That's an update from when I was posting it, because I trained my kids. We did lock of the day every Wednesday, so they just knew to go straight to Breakout. But I wanted to how that integration works with.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, probably the easiest way to do it is to just get that student.breakoutedu.com link and post it as a pinned assignment in Google. And then when you want them to go and do an assignment in Breakout, you can just have them say, you could just say, click on that link and go to Breakout EDU. Moon, right? And then I said 4th and 5th and 6th. And then I went over here and said digital, and then did a search. So that'll give me anything that has the word moon in the title and the description. And then I went here to this game on Katherine Johnson. And you can see, just like the lock of the day, you can see the combination and the explanation for how the students got that answer down here. The difference is that there's more than one lock, right? So there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 locks in this game, as well as a reflection tab. And reflections are really important to give students an opportunity to think about the experience. The reflection tabs on the digital games are more content based, like the content of the game, but you can certainly add questions in here around, how did you struggle? How did you work with others? Those kinds of things to help them do that reflection as well. Each tab will also have the clue. So I can go and look at the clue and say, oh, okay, that's perfect. I know exactly what I want them to do there. And each clue, so this is a reading clue, and that was a math clue. And again, each clue is going to be unique to that lock. And I can go in and check them all out. Like I said, you can bookmark it. You can assign the game to the students directly, and you can play the game like in front of the classroom, projecting to the whole room, so that you can do this as a whole group experience. But you can also copy the game as well. And one of the things that I think is very powerful when it comes to copying the games, especially if you happen to be someone who likes to play around in editing graphics and things like that, you can change anything you want here, right? So you can change this title like I showed you before. You can add anything you want to the story for the game, including something like put your reflections here and hyperlink that to a Google Doc where they're going to reflect on the experience, like any doc that you've created. You could do that. You can change the background. Like I might like this background instead of the one that's there. This is the We Broke Out sign. So this first tab is the game info, which is the title, the story, the We Broke Out sign, and whether or not the game is sequential or non-sequential, which basically the difference is non-sequential, you can jump around from lock to lock. Sequential means you have to go in order of the locks. And then let's say I jump to this clue. This is a really great clue that if I'm crafty, if you will, I can download that image and manipulate it with, clearing out this board, covering it with a white panel, writing different things. And then I can differentiate and I can give a different puzzle to different students. I can also come down and say, all right, I'm not crazy about this particular puzzle. So I'm going to delete that puzzle altogether. And now I only have 3 puzzles. Maybe we don't have time to do 4 puzzles. So you could delete a puzzle. You can even add a puzzle. So you can you can have a total of up to 10 puzzles. So you can create your own puzzles, create your own story for those puzzles, and then upload your own image or create with Adobe Express. We have Adobe Express for layering and creating graphics. You can make a text clue, or you can record a video clue and house it someplace like YouTube and drop the link here. So there's lots of flexibility and lots of options when it comes to editing the games and creating the games, because you can go into My Games and hit Create Game and create a game from scratch using all your own graphics and all your own designs. And that's where the school library comes in really handy, because maybe somebody says, hey, I'm going to create a game for the unit that we're doing on Martin Luther King. And then I'll share it in the library so everybody else has access to it. So you can do that co-planning and that co-creating as a grade level team, as, you know, a curriculum team, whatever it might be. You can do that as well and then share it with the class library. All right, so the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about was student created games. So like I said earlier, students can create games as well. And you have this learn and play feature. Now, teachers also have learn and play. So if you wanted to do the learn and play on your own, you can do that. It's basically a series of modules that helps you learn about, you know, what's a good story, what's a good title, what's a good puzzle, what makes a good clue, all of those things. So here's perplexing puzzles, here's cracking the code, marvelous maps, and so on. The teachers can jump around from module to module. The students cannot. The students have to work through it sequentially. And the teachers also have the answer key and the students do not. But the idea here is that the students would learn all about the components of a good game. And then they would go in and create a game. So when they go in to create a game, they would hit create a new game. They would say, what class is it for? And then they would say, you know, math game, whatever the project might be. And then they have that same exact builder as you when it comes to adding locks, creating locks, editing the game info. It's all the same exact process. So the more that you get to know it, the more that they will get to know it, or you can help them. Once they create a game, it lives and created until they submit it to class. And then once they submit it to class, like here is my project. Once they submit it to the class, it jumps over from created to submitted. And you can see that now over here, it's pink because it's waiting for review. And then the teachers over here will get a notification that a game has been submitted. Matt D submitted all about math, so I must not have hit submit, but or I didn't refresh. Let me refresh. That's probably why. There we go. All right. So all right, not sure what's going on there, but I must have done something wrong. It's okay. You will get a notice in your class that you've got a submitted game from a student, and then you would go in and review the games that have been submitted by your students, and then be able to send them back some comments until it is approved. So you go back and forth. Once you send back comments, it becomes blue and they can review the comments. And then then they can resubmit it back to the teacher with edits if possible. And then once it's approved, it ends up over here. So it doesn't automatically just become approved. And then once it's approved by the teacher, then the teacher has the flexibility to add it to what's called the class library. So in the class library, the teacher can put games that other students have created in the class library, which is different than the school library, right? The school library is for teachers. The class library is for students. And then that makes those games available to other students to play. So if you're going to be doing a project like a review or a recap project or a research project or anything like that, and you want part of the component of the project for the other kids to play student created games, they could do that by pulling them out of the class library. You can find some really great resources for student game design in the Help Center. If I go to the Help Center under Students and then under Student Game Design, you'll see that there are step-by-step instructions that show exactly what I just talked about. But there's also this game design template. So that means that you can, print that out and give it to the students where they have to kind of sketch everything out and plan it on paper as part of a bigger project, and do all their pre-work on paper before they go and add it to the platform. So I know that in a lot of ways, that's like when you're assigning bigger projects, that's the better way to go for that. Here's a big important point that I'm going to make. The content is important, right? You're going to want to address content. You're going to want to make those content connections, but having them do like a lock of the day, even once a week, and practice critical thinking and communication and collaboration, even if it's not content related, is valuable time, right? You are really helping them fire those synapses, if you will. And then when it comes to the point where you want them to fire those synapses to do a more complicated math problem or a science project or whatever, you have helped them create those pathways in their brain to do that independently. And that's the point of doing Breakout EDU as regular as possible. Even if you don't find really tight content connections, even if you have a lock of the day that has nothing to do with what you're teaching, but it's really great from a critical thinking standpoint, it's valuable. The other piece is keep in mind that you do have that game editor and the game creator. So if you find something that's really close to what you want content wise, but not exactly what you want, you can go in and create something, right? And edit what's there. So you do have those pieces. Awesome. I see lots of ones. I want to try the country one. Nice. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it is very user friendly. And we've put a lot of work into the platform to make it user friendly. So I'm glad that you called that out. Thank you so very much, Joshua. And Trina, sure, absolutely. Of course you would want to explore. One of the things that I didn't show you that I will, which kind of goes along with Holly's point as well, is that if you do a browse by subject search, right, instead of a keyword search. So let's say you do a browse by subject search and you go into math, language arts, science, or social studies, you'll find these tiles up here at the top will take you to a standards document that, again, I know are not your standards, but you recognize things like use contents clues / text resources to determine the meaning of a domain specific academic vocabulary, comparing multiple accounts of the same events in multiple texts, identifying and summarizing the main idea, theme, and supporting details of informational text. That standard is in every standards document, right? So you can go here and you can find games that are aligned to those particular standard indicators. And then that will also help you as you explore. And if you find something, again, that you think you might be able to use as it is or edit it, go ahead and bookmark it or copy it to your My Games, and then you can go back and look at it again later.